Last week, I attended a ministry meeting at my church. The meeting was held at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and by the time I arrived, pretty much everybody was there, seated around the table, and my pastor was at the head of the table. And I came in with this bucket that says popcorn, and I put it on my pastor's lap, and she took her arms and she held it around the popcorn bucket. And she smiled, and I heard her say, popcorn. And I told her to look under the towel and see what was in there. And at that point in time, her whole countenance just melted, and she had this big smile on her face. She held it tightly, and she was rocking back and forth. You see, what was in the bucket wasn't popcorn, but there were 2 puppies. This story reminded me of the scripture of the Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus and his disciples have come to Samaria, and they stopped at the town of Sychar. Jesus was tired, so he sat at the well, and his disciples went into the city to buy food. The first person that came by was a Samaritan woman, and she had a water jar to draw water from the well. Jesus was thirsty, and he said to the woman, "Give me a drink." Well, this may seem like just an ordinary request, but you have to think of the context of the time. The woman replies, "How is it that you, a Jew, would ask me, a Samaritan woman, for anything?" So let me explain this a little further. Let me put it in modern times. I imagine that I'm in an inner city, and I'm tired and I'm thirsty, and I come to a church and there's a water fountain, and I go to push the button on the water fountain, but no water comes out. The water fountain has a basin, and it has pristine water that's accumulated in it, but I have no cup to dip the water out. Well, the first person that comes by is a homeless man, and I've just watched him climb out of a dumpster, and he has alcohol in his breath, and there's chewing tobacco coming down his mouth. His clothes reek of body odor in the dumpster, and he's walking a little unsteady. He's probably drunk, he may be on drugs, but he has a tin cup. Now the question is, will I ask him for a drink of water? Well, I'm not answering that question, but Jesus does ask this Samaritan woman for a drink from her water jar. Now, we learn more of her background. She's one that has been with 7 men and not married to any one of them. She's a homebreaker. She runs around with other people's husbands. This is the woman that Jesus is speaking with. So she's not only hated because she's a Samaritan by the Jews, but she's hated by the Samaritan community itself because she's a loose woman. So that is the context of Jesus asking her for water. But then the story changes, and Jesus shares with her that the water she's going to dip out of Jacob's well, she will be thirsty again. But he has this thing called living water, that when she drinks the living water, she will never be thirsty again. And she says to Jesus, "Give me that living water." So I go back to my bucket of popcorn. With that situation, my pastor thought she was getting popcorn and she'd be hungry again in 2 hours. But instead, she had a chance to hold puppies. And that experience of holding the puppies will be with her forever. Those puppies are living water.